Good morning. I'm running a little late today. I'm all over the place. There's nothing consistent at all about these things. They just have to fit in with what else I have going on. Somebody rang up and asked me to go out for lunch and dinner. I'm like, I can't even plan myself out for the rest of the day because I need to come on here first. I was like, yeah, we can do it another day, but I haven't got time today. I have to go and see the gang, go and visit the gang. Okay. I'll start getting some cards ready though, because I know it won't be long before some people come through. I know some of you guys just watch the show and don't really contribute, and that's cool too. Somebody asked me to do some more work on narcissism and codependency, so I might organise to do a schedule of that perhaps sometime this week. So if you're interested, keep your eye out. I do a little bit of it in the group, in the class we do on abandonment, because that's where it all comes from, but not intensely. So I think some people want some more information around that. Oh, Rocky. I'll get another one. The raccoons come out. I don't know what sort of day it is. I just want to brush my hair because I've been doing work in bed this morning. I woke up this morning, it was just too cold to get out of bed. We're public holiday here in Australia. And I went, you know what? I'm really cheeky. I'll put some YouTube clips on, get back into bed and do the work from my bed. And that's what I did. So I'm in theory still in my pajamas with my dressing gown on. Just don't tell anybody, right? That one wants to come out. Okay. Oh, very pretty. We have the raccoon and the hummingbird coming out here. Yeah, so a lot of people might be doing stuff today because it's Australia Day. Sorry, it's not Australia Day. Liar. It's the Queen's birthday. The Queen's birthday. All right, so we have the raccoon. I don't think anybody got the buzzer today. And the hummingbird. So one will most likely finish here. I've got a few things to do, organise for this weekend's class, and then I will be finishing off my afternoon, finishing off my work in bed. Other than putting the garbage bin out, that's all I'm doing today. Okay, I deserve it. The raccoon. This is talented, shadowy. Hey, Sarah, how you going? In hiding. Raccoon energy is at play within all artists to greater or lesser degrees. At best, it indicates talent, tenacity, and skillfulness with a particular musical instrument or creative tool. Its shadow side points to an unresolved issue around self-image and success. Sometimes using a stage name or wearing a mask works in an artist's favour. Other times it limits creativity. Am I who my audience think I am? What if I'm ready to grow into something more? Raccoon energy won't let us off the hook until this creative ego fear is resolved. That's so spot on for the moment. Thanks, Sarah. This is so spot. This is what I've been doing. There's just been this a lot of call from the universe to discover our unearthed talents. Do away with the things that are holding us back. The whole wearing a mask, that part of your ego that keeps you safe, which holds you back from being really true to your creative self. And this is what I'm being called to do at the moment. And I know it's coming through in a lot of the readings too, is to discover that part of yourself that you've kept hidden. And it is, the shadow side does point to an unresolved issue around self-image and success. So you can be holding yourself back here by not unveiling that part of yourself that's not allowing you to grow. Oh, hello, Misco. How you going? Good for you. Creativity is the way to go. Yeah, we're somehow hiding our true selves, but it's not that easy. Um, I've been working on it for quite some time and I still can't quite work out what mine is. I know it's holding me back. I know it is, but I still can't quite grasp it. And a few times people have said, just leave it alone, just don't worry about it. I'm like, no, if it's something that I need to do for myself, I need to work out what is going on here. Okay, hummingbird. This is about being positive, enthusiastic, and spiritually resourceful. Inside the tiny hummingbird resides an endless well of energy and positivity. The hummingbird's secret is that it's learned where to gather nectar and it returns to these sources daily for nourishment and rejuvenation. This sacred elixir springs from many sources, but usually involves nature, creativity, and exploring spirituality. Snap. Follow the way of the hummingbird, and you cannot go wrong. Every droplet of life becomes sweet, every moment worth savoring. And this is the Smart Curious Loves to Learn card. And I think that that's, hey, Susan, how you going? I think that's beautiful to get the two of them together. So obviously, we have the resources, we have the spiritual know-how. So whatever we do, we will eventually get to what's lying within here. Absolutely no doubt. Maybe we're just not ready to find out yet. Maybe we're still at a point of growing and we haven't quite understood that what it is deep within ourselves, but it will come. And by the book just jumped out at me as well. So I will take that card. Okay, and that's card number 11. So obviously we've got the resources. Oh, did you? You should have taken a picture. I just absolutely love hummingbirds. They're so tiny. I had no idea how small they were. Okay, buy the book. Abiding by social rules, conformity, respecting cultural or family customs, universal laws. I think this is something to do with what we've got sort of hidden within ourselves here. I think somehow or another we've culturally conformed to what was expected of us, and we're still not thinking outside the lines. So I think this is what this is getting at here. The universe works within a structure of divine laws and principles that provide a framework for human experience and evolution. The law of abundance, the law of prayer, the law of karma, the law of attraction, the law of thought, the law of compensation, and the law of nature are only a few that are known. These principles create perfect order and operate within a kind of precision beyond human understanding. Even revolution has its place in universal law. Human beings, in turn, have their own laws and customs that vary from culture to culture and family to family. Laws keep social order and govern behaviour, reflecting an instinctive understanding that harmony is important. This is a time to learn these laws and conform to them rather than being the rebel and flouting them. When this card appears, submit to structure and follow the rules even if they seem to make no sense. Release resistance, for universal laws will correct any disharmony. Open your eyes to those universal laws and it will be easier to go by the book at this time. Okay. It's funny, isn't it? It's got here, focus on what you really want to achieve, regardless of whether it feels so far outside the box that the established order may reject it. Genius, invention, and transformation are rarely comfortable and less likely to be accepted by the mainstream. It may be time for you to say no to the way of the group, take a stand, and make real changes. It's really interesting because look at everybody's here. Sorry, I was getting really involved in the card. How are you all? Hey, yeah, I've got my dressing gown on. I just said I've been in bed all morning, not working, but it was cold, so I decided to grab my work and go back to bed. But I brushed my hair today, which is good. At this time, you can expect a return on your investment. Whatever you've pursued, be it a dream you've long cherished, a skill you've cultivated, or a service you're called to, will come to you if you're willing to go by the book. You don't need to reinvent the wheel to be successful. Follow in the footsteps of others who've already achieved the things you're striving for. You can learn a lot by observing the structures that are already working. Your creative projects and commitment to prosperity are in alignment with the needs of the world, but impatience may tempt you to cut corners and get there more quickly. Stick with what you know works and you will attract abundance. Okay, not I am getting better. I really am. Patience is not my virtue, but I am learning that patience definitely works. Hi, hi, Yvonne. Hi, Jeanette. I meant to say. Oh, you brushed your teeth, but not your hair. Well, there you go. We would have probably been all right together. I just it was just so cold, and I thought I've got some readings on, but they're later in the day, so I thought I grabbed some books, I grabbed my iPad and been doing a little bit of work and doing a little bit of reading, and actually went back and watched my personal tarot readings I've had done for myself. Hi Jody, how you going? I watched some of them a couple of weeks ago, and they've taken like 3 years more than likely to come true. And I think sometimes when people ask you about divine timing and you talk about, what divine timing is and how it has to work, I can tell you my readings are all aligned. They're all very similar in that they predict pretty much the same things for me. And I am really about 3 years down the track, and I'm only seeing them start to unfold now. So I think that's quite interesting. I'm going to read some from the Rumi book. Yeah, see, that's what I've been doing. I haven't done any tarot readings. No, I think it's still pretty cold. I don't know. My place is my place sort of is a bit strange. Hi Moira, how are you going? It is a bit cold, but in the evening, because it's got 2 stories, in the evening it gets quite warm upstairs, but it's always cold in the morning. I've bought Divine Mother Manifests out here. So I'm just going to read a little bit of this to you. It's from Rumi, and as I said, it's sort of like a couple of pages of writing, and then there's a ritual after every card. So I'm not going to read you the whole lot, but I'll read you a little bit. But the poem from Rumi here says, "Oh, you living in a world of 6 directions, accept the gloom and accept the bliss, for those seeds buried in the ground will one day grow into fruitful orchards." That's beautiful. So this is about manifestation. Or about creation. So I feel like now doing all the other readings and how they've all fitted together, this is about us learning how to create and manifest. So yeah, it's a little bit of a journey. I've been a big Rumi fan for a long time, but you and I have very, very similar tastes, Sarah. It's quite interesting. It's let me just have a quick peek. It's really sunny and bright outside. It looks really nice, but Australia has this really tricky way of outsmarting you, because it looks absolutely glorious outside and you think, oh, what a nice day, and you go out and it will be freezing. And then an hour later you'll be cooking and you'll have to strip clothes off, and then you'll be freezing again. And it does this, especially on the change of seasons going into winter. We are twinsies. You can see a rainbow off that card. That's really nice. Just grab the pot of gold for us, Susan. I'll go your halves. Hey, Lauren, how are you going? I was thinking about you this morning. I really, I've had a few people write to me that have had dreams about me, and I find that really fascinating. And somebody wrote to me this morning and said they dreamed about me last night, and not in a naughty way. This is a very positive thing, but about my healing ability. And it was really beautiful, actually, to get the email this morning. I've been a bit, from this eclipse. It seems like the beginning of the eclipse and the after the eclipse have affected me more than actually when the eclipse was happening, which I think is quite interesting. Yeah, I was thinking about you this morning, but I'll talk to you privately about that. I'll text you and talk to you about it a little bit later. And so I thought it was really nice that people sort of see me very differently to what I see myself. And I don't know if you guys do the same thing, whether you sometimes wonder what other people see differently about you and how you do present to the world. Um, especially when we're talking about all these things around, wearing masks, trying to be something you're not, trying to present something you're not. Thanks, Scott. But we tend to sort of present ourselves in very different ways. And for a long time, I know black giant slugs. No black, no color. I just think that there is this sort of feeling that people don't always see you the way you see yourself. And I remember having, I just thought it was a good topic of conversation, but I do remember having, a couple of sort of confrontations with my family when they sort of said things to me about how I was. And I remember thinking, I don't know why you would think that way. And it would always send me off into this spiral of self-discovery, trying to work out how somebody could possibly see me as being horrible, evil, self-centered, spiteful, some of the things that came out. And I could never really understand how people could see me that way. And I remember going sort of inside to try and understand why people see you a different way. What is it about you that you present yourself to the world in a certain way that may not be true to who you are? So what is it you're doing that makes you look different to what you truly are inside? So I wondered, thanks, Jeanette. Yes, some people do say to me, and I think it's really strange, because when people say really beautiful things to me, I'm still a little bit humbled by it, because I feel grody Jody. I love that. I just feel sometimes it's really sad that you can't wear your soul on the outside, or that your soul is not seen as part of who you are. And I guess in a room like this, where we trust each other and we're comfortable around each other, we can be really open with each other and feel very comfortable. But in the outside world, we tend to become a bit guarded, and we sort of put our defenses up a little bit. Hey, Janet, how you going? So I wondered, and you've wondered that too, Lauren, if I meet people, I tend to sort of, sometimes if you meet someone that's not being true to themselves, or they're being a bit false, it makes me feel a little bit like I need to step back and be a bit cautious with them. And I sort of wondered that, maybe for some people, if they're wearing a mask, I automatically go into a non-vulnerable stance, because I don't want to share with someone if they're not being open with me. And it's also the other way around too, when you sometimes meet people who overshare or over compensate, and that makes me sort of step back a little bit too. I feel uncomfortable with that. So I'm sort of aware of other people, but I think it's really interesting. I would like to understand how other people are aware of me. We are complicated creatures. I think it's really important to understand that we are complicated, but the more we become aware of ourselves and the more awakened we become, the more we can understand other people. So we start to see that in other people as we start to sort of shed our own ego. And I certainly see it even in, people that I work with, people that I talk to, who I can be completely myself with and feel comfortable that somebody's not going to take advantage of me, or that someone's not going to manipulate. Yeah, see, I get with Lauren too. I think that's really, really something that I've learned a lot in the last couple of years, especially since I sort of, that's exactly right. I'm totally with you, Sarah. On the one hand, the people who hold back scare me because I feel like they're not giving me their true self. So that scares me and I hold back. But if people overshare, that scares me too, because I know how dangerous that can be too. So I know that around some people, I'm probably a lot more cautious, but I'm getting better at seeing that with people. And Yeah, I think so too. And I think that's why you end up sort of giving that little bit of an aloofness thing to people, where they're not sure of you. But then I think that's because I'm not sure of you. So until you sort of make me feel comfortable with you or help me to feel comfortable with you, I'm probably going to feel that way and perhaps a little bit unsure of the energy that you're putting out there. The reason I sort of started to think about it, I think, was my daughter-in-law was telling me how she met a girl through my son's work. And she said she was the most beautiful person. And my daughter in law was so taken with her. And there was just this instant friendship between them that was so beautiful. And then my daughter in law said within only a couple of weeks of knowing each other, it was like she completely turned, turned it completely round and became someone that she didn't even recognize. And I thought that's the thing, isn't it? People put up this front, this mask to pretend they're a certain kind of person. They tell lies. They really do tell lies to try and convince you that they are the person you want to be. And once they've got you really manipulated and you start to trust that energy, then it's pretty much you're into it. You're, for whatever reason. And of course, that's how narcissists work. So they overly do the affection and the way they speak to you, the way they take you in. It's very over the top, and they call that love bombing. And people do it all the time. They love bomb you into a false sense of security, and you think this person is really generous and kind because they're telling you everything you want to hear. But yet they're not really. They're trying to do it for their own ends so they can achieve what they want to. So I think that this sort of comes back to this idea of, trusting people and seeing people for who you think they are, and how long does it take you to really feel comfortable with someone before you can start sharing with them at a decent level, not an oversharing level. If somebody comes up and starts talking about something that's really, really personal, I feel uncomfortable with no boundaries whatsoever. But if somebody's got too many boundaries up and I feel like I can't penetrate and know who you are, then that makes me uncomfortable too. Dogs have got it sorted, but it would be really good if the smell of our bums really showed us what we were like. But obviously it doesn't, because I've met some people who've come across so nice and so decent in the beginning who've turned out to be really not very nice people at all. So, I think that when you're an empath too, you like to see the good in others. So you want to see that people have your well-being at heart, but that's not true either, because some people want to use you and some people want to exploit you for their own good. So I think that, it's really interesting when you do meet someone that's very genuine and really honest, and someone who's right in the middle there where they've not got their barriers up, but they've also not oversharing, how different a person like that feels. So if you meet somebody else who's on the spiritual path, who's opened up spiritually, understands healthy boundaries, but also doesn't have their guard up, they're vulnerable. So they know how to be vulnerable without getting taken advantage of, but they also know that oversharing is not the right thing to do either. When you meet people like that, it's a very sort of very connecting energy, because that person feels like a kindred spirit. Then you don't feel like you have to hold back, and you feel that you can be, who you want to be. Hey, Angelica, how you going? Very good for you. So I think it's really important to be yourself, but it's very difficult when you're in a world of people who are not being themselves. So it's very interesting. So when people sort of talk about me from, their perception of me, I have a very, very different perception of myself. And that in its sort of entirety, I think, is very much about how we see other people and how other people see themselves. And it is really interesting, as I said, to meet people. Hey, Gigi, how you going? It is very interesting then to meet people who are open spiritually, because they won't overshare. They're comfortable with being around you because they are a kindred spirit. So it makes things very, very different. because the conversations you have are very open and honest, but not intrusive. So I've really sort of seen that in the last few days. Um, yeah, I've got Lauren. I get that. I've got probably 4 or 5 friends. One I've got a school friend, but I've got 4 or 5 friends that I've known for well over 20 years, and we've always just accepted each other as we have, and we've stayed friends. They're very, very different people to me, not so much on the spiritual path, but we have a very solid friendship. Um, and I've sort of made friends with people over the years, and I just get this thing where people tend to overshare or try to get the relationship moving along too quickly. And I've sort of started to see that more as time goes by, how people are. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. So I just think that people, have a very different conception or a very different idea of who you are to who they are. And that is really interesting, that you can know somebody for a very long time and they will still have no idea of who you are as a person. So, yeah, I think that you get very how would you say? You get very overcautious of people, and I get Lauren saying that, it is about having close friends and sort of being careful of others. But it always seems such a shame to me that, you have to be that cautious around people, that, you understand that there are people out there that are going to take advantage of you, whether that's in a relation type relationship, a romantic relationship, or whether it's in a friendship thing. But I think that it's really, I'm getting better at it. But for many years, I made the mistakes with that. And I guess you're all talking sort of my language here. You're all understanding how it is. When you're empathic, you tend to be very, very generous with who you are. And I've been aware of boundaries for quite some years and how much you share with others. But I still see it with other people when people share with me. And I think I've known you for 1 minute and you're already sharing, something that I wouldn't even talk to you about until I became a really good friend with you. So what is it about those boundaries that, yeah, I get it, Sarah. I do. I think that you do start to get better at it, don't you? So you do start to feel, I always call it the incongruence. When a car salesman trying to sell you a car and his body language is saying one thing, but his voice is saying something completely different. And we get that people are false. Yeah, and I get that too, Lauren. Sometimes I'll say things too, and I think I've offended people before by trying to be direct about something, and people aren't used to people being direct with them. And I don't think I've been particularly harsh, but I have said it as it is because I never used to, and I've had to learn to do that. And sometimes when I do it, I try to be as honest as I can. And because I'm honest, some people take offense to my honesty, which I think is a bit sad, because if you knew me, you would know that I'm not a mean or horrible person. I'm just trying to assert my own boundaries. And I think that's where the intuitive thing comes in, Sarah. When you sort of, not sure of someone and you assert those boundaries and that person backs off. And nowadays, I think, well, if you're going to back off, you weren't worth it in the first place. But years ago, I would have taken offense to that. Scott, would you like to talk about the beach? Because you've got this conversation over here about the beach, and I think perhaps you'd like to talk about the beach. Gigi, I get that too. I'm getting better at it. I'm getting better at being honest, but I just thought it was a really good conversation after my daughter-in-law talked about it yesterday, how quickly people sort of suck you in for their own benefit, sucking you in to exploit you or get what they can out of you, and then get really upset or angry with you when you don't when you don't do the right thing. Somebody was saying to me not long ago, I can't remember who it was, and they said that, every time these people need something and they come to me, I always, try and help people out, if they need to move or they need to do something, I'm immediately there to give them a hand. And then a couple of weeks ago, I needed a hand, and I actually went and said to people that I'd done, heaps of things for, would you mind helping me move some furniture this weekend? And nobody was available to give them a hand. And I was like, that's just really sad, isn't it? That, you can be a generous, warm, welcoming person, but other people will just see you as an extension to what they need from life. And that's really sad. Jody, I don't want to become a hermit. I really love people. And I think it's really, I'd really like to make new friends all the time. But the trouble is, there are so many people, you're right, Lauren, so many people out there who are really out there just to gain people for their own benefit, whether that's in a romantic relationship or whether that's in a a friendship. It's really hard sometimes to trust people have got the same intentions you have. Perhaps that's what I'm trying to say. And my daughter-in-law was really upset about it. She was really like, I really trusted her. And I came home and said to Jay, that's my son, I came home and said to Jay, how wonderful to meet someone so beautiful. She was so kind. 2 weeks or something, she turned completely and became a completely different person. And I think that yeah, and I agree with you, Lauren. I think that sometimes when we're honest and we assert ourselves or we speak our truth, if people are wearing a mask, they immediately take it as a personal affront. And that can be a problem too, because then you're like, well, I'm only trying to assert my boundaries. I think that's why my friends that I've stayed really close friends with are all really outspoken, down to earth, very frank people. And I think I feel comfortable with that because I know they'd be honest with me if I wanted to talk to them about something. Yeah, I get that too. Yeah, I think it gets to that point. Isn't it sad, though, that you've got to be always on your guard with everyone? And as I said, it's different on here because I know you guys are all very, very similar. I know you are all people who've done some spiritual work, have a greater understanding of how people are, but have also a very good understanding of masks. And I think this is what Spirit is getting at a lot with us lately about dropping the masks, being ourselves. Whether that offends someone else, that's their issue, not ours. If you're being honest with someone and direct with someone, then that is your problem, not mine. And that's really difficult because sometimes we say, we'll go, oh, I'm sorry, were you offended by that? And then we start to explain why we've said it, when in fact we shouldn't have to question it. If we are being honest with someone, that's okay. We have every right to be honest. And I'm not talking about being spiteful or mean or nasty. I'm just talking about being honest. But yes, a lot of people wear masks, and they do sort of tend to pretend that there's someone they're not. One or two people check on you through your separation, and that's it. I think sometimes too, with when you separate and you separate from a partner, a lot of the time people that know your partner will come and tell you, or your ex-partner will come and tell you things that you didn't know about or you hadn't seen, which is a bit enlightening, really. Especially if you've been with narcissistic people, because you tend to sort of because you trust them, you tend to turn a blind eye sometimes to the things they say and do. And I think sometimes other people don't. They see it, but they may be worried about telling you because they are worried that perhaps they're going to hurt or offend you. So they sort of try not to tell you things, which I think's really sad, because I think it would be much better if they were honest with you. But some of those narcissistic people really scare other people, and that's not good either. Yeah, see what I mean? There you go. with Lauren, when people told you what they saw afterwards, you were so surprised. Yeah, I agree with you, because people do sometimes see things you're not seeing because you're so trusting, or sometimes you're so blindsided by your relationship with a narcissist. So you tend to sort of only see what you want to see. And sometimes they've gaslighted you so badly that you don't always see things for what they actually are. So you may not trust your own judgment. And that's what happens with narcissistic people. You end up not trusting your own judgment. So when things are done, you question yourself rather than question the partner. And I know that Lauren will know exactly what I'm talking about. Yep. So I always think that that's a really interesting concept. Yeah, I know, and I get it, Jeanette. And I think that, this is the thing with this sort of not really trusting people. Because people do tend to, especially if you start to get to know them a little bit, if they've been a little bit manipulative, you lose sight of the truth. And then, of course, you don't trust your judgment with others either. So I feel like what Lauren's saying is so relevant here. Sometimes you walk away from a relationship and you start to see things as they are. When you look back at the relationship, you can see how you've been manipulated into believing something that's not true. Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, everybody is clever how they manipulate you, and some people are really clever with that. And I've had to cut up a couple of friendships off because of the same thing. There's just these like narky comments or spiteful comments, and you're like, was that necessary? But sometimes it's so subtle that you don't pick up on it the first time, or you put red flags. See, that's exactly right. And it's so important to see those red flags. And I think now, yeah, I agree. Gigi's put it in a nutshell here. But the narcissists in relationships are one thing, but there are lots of narcissistic people out there who are the same gender as you, and they are up for friendship, but they're still looking for what can they gain from you? What can they gain? The narcissistic ploy is to see you as what you can do for me. What can you do for me? So they see you as an extension of themselves. So if they can send you in to fight for them, which is what we call flying monkeys, then they'll send you in to fight for them, and they will get you doing their dirty work for them. But sometimes they still work as friends, trying to get you on board because they can see how much they can gain from you. So that is a really tough one because, as I said, with my daughter-in-law, that was only a couple of weeks of knowing that person. Some people can get you right hooked in before you start to see their true colors. Red flags are really good to keep your eye open on. And, I always say to people, if you see the first red flag, I think it's okay to not call it on the first one. But if you see a second one, call it. And if you see a third one, get out as quickly as you can. Because sometimes people slip and they may not mean it, but if you can call them on it and be honest, like we were talking about before, and say, hey, you just said that and that made me feel uncomfortable. And I will now. And it doesn't win me a lot of favors with people when I call it. But if I don't call it, I'm going to get sucked in again, and I won't do that anymore. Yeah, no, if you try and tell people how you feel about people, it is really hard, Lauren. I get it completely. Yeah, well, I think I said to you, I told a friend one time that I'd caught her husband. I told him to tell her first. And then when I wasn't sure that he told her that he'd been cheating, I went to see her and said to her, I caught your husband cheating on you. And she said, oh, that's all right. She said, if he's having sex somewhere else, it doesn't bother me. At least he keeps it away from me. And I was like, well, that backfired big time. And I agree with you, Jody. Sometimes you can pick up the red flags really, really easily early in the piece. If you don't ignore them, then you call them. And if you call them and the other person doesn't like it, and they go, then that's fine. You're better off without them anyway. But see, what I would do years ago is I'd try and fix it because I'd be honest about it, and then I'd feel guilty because I was honest. So then I would try and fix it, which is a problem too. So I've learned now if I'm honest and the other person gets offended by that, I don't want to know them. Because if they can't accept my honesty, it's not worth us having a friendship or a relationship. It does, Janet. It does. It is really hard, but it's the way we should be. I don't know why people feel that they have to be a different way, but that's it. And yeah, shooting the messenger, absolutely. But the thing is, it's better off to shoot the messenger. Better off. Honest is a sin amongst some friends. I like that, TS. Yeah, trying to fix it. Yeah, so I spent a lot of years trying to do that too. I know you would have all been somewhere on the same journey. Yeah, and you do think it's yourself. If someone's really good at gaslighting, if you know what gaslighting is, that came from a movie. I think in the 40s the movie came out, and in the movie I can't remember who was in it. I probably should go back and watch it again. He made his wife think she was going mad, like he'd move things or, do things around the home or say things. And then when she said, but you did or said that, he would say, no, I didn't. And in the end, she didn't know what was true and what was not. So you become a little bit scatty and a little bit mad. And you can see it once you start to understand this. Why I say to people, if you're being in narcissistic relationships, the most smartest thing you can do is to educate yourself, because there's nothing like a smart empath. You will never get fooled again. So, if you sort of understand how, yeah, it was a crazy movie. If you sort of understand how a narcissist works, so what they do is generally fairly early in the piece, right from the beginning, they start to pick up information around who you are that will help them manipulate you. That's why you've got to be good with boundaries. Because if you start talking about stuff out of school that is, some of the stuff you shouldn't be sharing on a first date, that's the sort of stuff they take on board, and they learn how to work with that. So they learn, if you like certain things or you don't like certain things, and they start to change their personality to morph with that. So the mask they wear in the beginning is the mask that they have created for you. So they start to be the person you want them to be. They know how to do that. They know what you like. They know what you don't like, and they try to be that person for you. And then they start to crowd you a little bit with the types of compliments you want to hear, the I love yous and things like that. So early in the piece, when nobody could possibly love you after 3 dates, it's not possible. But they'll start to do that because it gives you a false sense of security. And once you're in that vulnerable position, someone knows everything they need to know to manipulate you, and they know what you want to hear, and they know what's going to really get to you, especially if, like, you shared all your childhood stuff, for example, very early, and then they know that you're easily manipulated. Once somebody's got you into that vulnerable space and easily manipulated, they can pretty much do anything then. And if you've ignored those red flags along the way, each time you ignore a red flag, then it becomes even easier for them to manipulate. So I'll just go back and have a quick read. Yeah, Lauren, that is a really big narcissistic trick to tell you how you feel, or what you should do, what you shouldn't do, or you're too old for that or too young for that, or you should be doing this or you should be doing that. You're not who you are. They don't see you as an individual. They see you as an extension of themselves. That's why they put you up on a pedestal to start with, because they see you as being able to save them. You will be able to save me. You're something special. But that special thing, that doesn't last for very long. For some people, it only lasts a couple of months. And then all of a sudden, you get seen as what you really are, a human being. And then the exploitation starts. So that's when it becomes really abusive. Yeah, I agree. Hey, Caitlin, how you going? Yeah, not good enough. Yeah. We could all go into some of those stories. we could all go into the stories to really understand. I think if we started sharing them, we would probably Gigi, people do that everywhere. People do that everywhere. Take advantage of you just for what they can get from you. I think we've all been in that situation where someone's befriended us to get something. It's very, very clever. 3 weeks after meeting. Wow. Wow. 20 years. And you know, some people never come back, Jody. Some people never come back. Some people are still talking about how hard it was many, many years later, rather than sharing what they got from the experience. 20 years. Oh, wow. So you had a narcissistic father, Sarah. Yeah, that's really interesting. Well, the thing is, you know, like this is what happened. So I've had a fair few narcissists in my life, but I never still saw it. I didn't see it. I just thought it was me. I thought I was defective. I didn't know. I really didn't. That's why when people say about me being, you know, evil, underhanded, whatever, I think, oh my God, you would never meet anyone more genuine than I am. That's it. So when it kept happening, I just always thought it was me. I thought I was defective as a child. I thought I was defective as an adult. I just went through life thinking there was something wrong with me. So I kept trying to improve myself. And do you know how I did it? I kept being nicer. I kept giving more. I kept trying to prove to others that I had value because I thought I was the one that was defective. And guess what? That doesn't work. That just makes you more vulnerable and more, you know, susceptible for abuse. So I love telling people that that is not what you do. You don't try to become a better person. You don't try harder to please people. You don't try to be more, you know, of what people need or want from you. That's not how you do it. You've got to be yourself. You've got to be yourself and you've got to respect yourself and you've got to love yourself. And that is the hardest lesson in the world to do. To learn how to love yourself is the hardest thing to do, especially when you believe that you are defective. So when I started after the last big relationship I had, and I've had another relationship in between for about a year and a narcissist. Even then, even with all the knowledge and everything I'd learned, I still went in and did the same thing again. And I realize now that you can't cure yourself. You cannot cure yourself. You just have to understand you've got to have good boundaries. And if you're honest with people and tell them how you feel and they run a mile, they weren't worth your effort in the first place. So it's become something now. It's sort of like being an alcoholic, where you know you're an alcoholic, you know you can't have a single drink, otherwise you're going to go down the same pathway. And that's what codependency is like. So you cannot take a chance with someone if they are doing something, because the chances are pretty good you're going to get hooked quickly. And then the same thing happened. It took me another several months to get out of the same situation again. But they get more and more subtle. They get more and more covert. So when I left the last one, I remember thinking, okay, this is it now. I want to know why I keep doing this. And I remember sitting in front of Google, because I'm a Google girl. And I remember sitting in front of Google and putting everything into Google that had happened to me. So all the things I had identified as being manipulative, I guess. And it came back and said something about narcissism. And I was like, what do you mean narcissism? I do not know of this thing you call narcissism. So I started really investigating, what did narcissism mean? And of course, the first thing you do when you're an empath is you go, am I a narcissist? So I started to look at all my own behaviors and started to sort of pull apart myself. And obviously, one of the people that I've sort of met through here, you get what we call fleas from the narcissist. So there's some behaviors you carry as well, which are extremely narcissistic, but you don't see them that way because they've been role modeled to you and they've become part of your behaviors. Okay, so what happens is you get these fleas. So I started to understand what my fleas were so I could work with those parts of myself that I was scared of because I realized I'd probably inherited some narcissistic traits. So I started to work on those. And then all of a sudden, I started to realize that I had people in my family the same way. So I started to see things really differently and my world started to open up because I started to realize that I'd surrounded myself completely with narcissistic people because I felt safe with them. I felt safe with them because I felt that they loved me, because that's what love had looked like to me since I was a child. That's how I'd understood what love was. And then the realization came to me that I probably spent all my life never really being loved by anyone. I'd only ever been what other people needed me to be. Mask. So that is a big wake up because you realize then how you've adapted yourself for everybody around you. So that mask you wear comes from doing that. You become the person that people want you to be. So even though narcissists, we see narcissists as being, not very nice people, we are just as guilty by being empathic because we allow the narcissist to survive. So it's a very strange journey, sort of alerting yourself and waking up to it. I'm just having a quick look through. It's a crazy story, isn't it? Yeah. And we do. The first thing we do is we pick up fleas. Absolutely. So the one thing I learned is about your a dog returns to its vomit. Yeah, they have supply, narcissistic supply. I still have some of them that keep coming back years later. Still come back. How you going, Yvonne? You doing okay? How's your family? I'm like, delete, block. I can't trust anybody now. I have to be on the alert with everybody. Otherwise, I'm just bang ho with the mask, and I'm not going to do that anymore. So it's been a very incredible journey. Fleas. Okay, some of the fleas I got. Using emotions to manipulate people. Now, I've never been a very emotional person. I bottle all of my emotions, and I've learned in the last few years how to open my heart and how to express myself. And that was sort of the journey here with YouTube, getting on and bearing who I was on YouTube. I understood with the emotions. So we talk about CPTSD. If you've had a life where you have been abused from the beginning, you probably have a level of PTSD that you carry with you. And that is triggered often by other people telling their story or by the simple fact that you empathize with people. You go into that really deep triggering state. And I learned about triggers. I learned about CPTSD. I learned what it was and I learned to name it. So what would happen is if somebody criticized me in any way or hurt my feelings anyway, I lashed. I let my emotions come out then. I lashed out. And what does a narcissist love? Oh my goodness, they love that they can get you going. That is their one thing. They want to feed off your emotion. They want to take that from you. They want to make you feel less than you are. And if they can aggravate you to that level of emotion, then they have achieved what they wanted to do. And I remember the first time, hey Emily, how are you going? I remember the first time calling a narcissist. I actually did it a few times, and there were people that were friends of mine. And I remember the first time I just sat there when they were ribbing me, teasing me, which they do. So they rib and tease you for the reaction, and you give them that's the time your emotions come out. They're the fleas. So what happens is you emotionally respond. And I remember sitting there the first time after I'd learned about being objective, being an observer, And I just sat there and I said, I know what you're trying to do and it's not going to work. And this poor guy that I knew, his face just went white. I don't think anybody had ever called it before. And that was it. He never did it to me again. He stopped straight away and he never did it to me again. So that's why I always tell people to observe, to hold on your emotions. Don't show your emotions. Hold on to them and observe. And if people say things about you that are mean or untrue or they tease you, you call them on it. You don't take offense to it. It's their way of training you into what they want from you. So if someone says to you, one particular one. I remember there was a girl in the picture theatre had her hair in plaits, and I sat there and went, "Oh wow, I haven't worn my hair in plaits for years." And the person I was with said, "You're too old to wear plaits." And I remember sitting there thinking, "Wow, I didn't think I was that old. At what age do you stop wearing plaits? When did that happen? Nobody told me I couldn't wear plaits anymore." And I went away and got really upset about it. And later on, I went, "Oh my God, you've done it again. If you want to wear plaits, you wear plaits. There is no age limit to plaits." But that's how it happens. And then if you turn around and go, "Don't speak to me like that, don't say that," they go, "Oh, I'm only joking." Manipulation. So it's really quite interesting when you start to see. So now, you get baited in front of other people because they're trying to put you down. See, when you respond, Lauren, and you respond with emotion, it makes you look like there's something wrong with you. That's the problem. That's the way you see it. But then later on, people will say to you, "We saw him baiting you. We saw him doing that, but we didn't know what to say or what to do about it." And then you realize people aren't backing them up at all. My ex-husband was such a liar. The lies he told were absolutely phenomenal, and it would embarrass me to the nth degree. So he would sit with other people. He was like really high up managing. And he would sit with a group of people and he would say, "Lie, lie, 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 lie. Didn't I, Yvonne?" And I'd sit there and think, "Oh my God, I don't know how to lie. I can't lie for you. I don't know how to." So I would say something like, "Oh, I'm really sorry, I can't remember." Or, "Oh, did it? Yeah, I can't remember that." Because I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to work with that. All I knew was somebody was telling lies and trying to get me on board with that. So they can be quite destructive with their lies as well, but they actually believe those lies. They believe those lies. So when they're telling them, that's the way they visualized everything. So, it's really interesting, isn't it? You know what, Lauren? I don't think there's a particular age or a particular way of doing anything. There is no limit. But there are lots of, I wear jeans too, Caitlin. I don't think there is a particular way of doing anything. And I think that when you stop and think about it, it's probably the narcissistic people who are jealous of what you get to do that they can't do, or what you get to do that they want to do. That's the thing. So just watch it in future. When somebody says someone's spiteful or something spiteful or nasty to you, don't respond. Don't respond to it. Just take it on board and have a little bit of a think about it. I don't get it. I don't get the whole, you can only do this at a certain age or you can only do that at a certain age. It's just silly. All we do is make people nervous about being who they are. It's crazy. It's quite interesting. I think that, a lot of the time with narcissistic relationships, it's very easy to look back and see what you saw in the last relationship. But then if someone sort of comes in a different way and you've already adjusted, remember, they're very good at being what you want them to be. So if you've already started to learn from the last relationship, then someone's going to learn what you don't want going forward. So it's very easy to be hooked in again. Very easy, because the next person is already listening to what you're saying. That's why you don't share your relationship information with other people. Because the moment you start sharing what happened to you in your last relationship, you're just giving the person ammunition. So being really, really firm with your boundaries for as long as you need to be is absolutely the most important thing you need to do going into relationships. Yeah, see what I mean? Just watch people. You'll learn to pick out the narcissistic people. You will learn to pick them out. But as I said, once you've been in a relationship with one narcissist, the next person may not present the same way. Okay, so be careful of that, because the next person will try to get different information. But because you've learned from the last relationship what that person was like, the next person is going to know what not to do when they're trying to cotton on to you. So just be careful of that. And then she said, so when you find someone, you will do it for them, right? Oh, no, you do it for yourself. Absolutely. I remember moving into a house, and I said to the guy that was doing the removaling, can you put that in my office, please? And he said, which one's that? And I said, that'll be that room there. And he said, well, where's your husband's office? And I said, my husband doesn't have an office. And he went, how come? I was like, because he doesn't work from home like I do. And he was really befuddled by that. Why should you have an office and your husband doesn't have one? I was like, really? I won't be ringing you again to do a removalist job for me. Like, really? He made it so blatantly obvious. It was crazy. Caitlin, I buy flowers for myself. And somebody said to me one day, who bought you the flowers? And I said, I bought myself the flowers. I love lilies. Aren't they beautiful? But yes, people think that you can't do things like that for yourself. Yes, you do what you do for yourself. Absolutely. Hey, Haley, how you going? Yeah. Yeah, and as I said, if you start to be a little bit more of an observer, and watch how other people respond to you and what they say to you. If you don't get emotional about stuff, like with Lauren and the person at school saying about her eyelashes, you don't get offended by it. You just be really, you know, you have to be confident with who you are. If you want to go out into the public and you want to wear clown makeup, that's okay. You do what you feel is right for you. And if somebody wants to question it, it's their problem. They're the ones who feel uncomfortable with it. Why did that woman say to Lauren about her eyelashes? Why did she feel uncomfortable with that? Because that's the only reason she said anything to Lauren. Normally a person would say, wow, you've had your eyelashes done. You look amazing. Because that's what we do. But if somebody's going to be critical about it, then you have to ask, why are they being critical? What do they have to lose? Hi, Queen of Water, how you going? They don't do it for themselves. Yeah, but then they get resentful and angry at other people because they do it. Why is that? It really is a very strange thing. Yeah, I had my lashes done for years, but I took them off because my own eyelashes were completely depleted. I didn't have any left. And the girl said to me, it's really hard to do your lashes. You need to have a break to let you. And I'd been doing them for about 4 years. And so I took them off and I grew my own eyelashes back. And I went back to have them redone again after a couple of months. And the glue really irritated my eyes so badly. And the lashes all ended up falling off within a few days. So I haven't had them done since, but I think they're beautiful. Absolutely, Emily. You can pull off whatever you want to. And nobody should say anything. And you know what? Sometimes I look at people and I think, wow, I'd love to have the confidence to wear that, or I'd love to be able to go out in public like that. And I still question my own confidence because of that, because I see other people doing things I would like to be doing. And I admire people for just being able to be who they are. I still have a little bit of trouble with that. I'm getting better. Yeah, mine looked amazing, and I had them when I took them off first off, and I remember walking into work, and people said to me, "Why, you look so different. Are you okay? You look," and I was like, "I've got no eyelashes," and they're like, "It just, I can't believe the difference it makes you not having eyelashes." So I don't know because I had them done at a different place when I went back the second, or I'd been having them done for years at the same place, and the girls had never got glue in my eyes. And when I had them done the next time around, I had them done at a different place. And I don't know what sort of glue they used, but my eyes really had a bad response to it. Um, yeah, that's good, Lauren. And I think when you come out of a relationship that's very controlling like that, you have to get back. We did miss you, Sarah. We all missed you. It went very quiet in here without you. Um, you have to go back to understanding who you are again. And I reckon there mustn't be a woman out there who wouldn't have walked out of the relationship wondering who they were because they've become something completely different to what they thought they were. And that's why I said you become vulnerable then to other people. If you don't do your healing, you're just going to end up with the next person the same way if you do not do your healing. You've got to heal. Otherwise, you're just going to keep going back into relationships where you keep meeting the same person with a different face. So it's quite interesting, but it's a bit of a journey. And I think I always say to you, I watched Richard Grannon a lot. The Spartan coach. I learned a lot from him. That's going back several years ago. He's huge now, but at the time he wasn't quite so well known. And he talked a lot about narcissism and his own experiences. And then I started to really look into the experiences around narcissism and understanding what narcissism was all about and how people control people through the things they do. And that was a big lesson for me. And then I became better even at work. I started to see people at work. I started to see bosses. I started to see the jealousies. I started to see the control and the manipulation at work. And I realized I'd been putting up with that for many, many years. And the more I put up with it, the harder I worked, the more I put in, the more I tried because I didn't realize what was going on. So if you're doing that and you're trying all the time to keep other people happy, or you're trying all the time to be the best person you can for other people, then you have a codependent personality. And that means you need to work on it. And I absolutely agree with you, Gigi, and I wished I'd have known that the first time around. But unfortunately, as I said, I didn't get it. I thought it was me. So I blamed myself for a lot of things, and I went back into the next relationship and did exactly the same again and again and again. And I think my angels and my guardian angels and all the people, my ancestors must have been kicking me in the shins saying, for crying out loud, girl, get it, because I wasn't. So I just think that once you start learning, once you become aware, it makes your job so much harder to make sure that you get into the right relationship next time. Yes, it's what you tolerate. That's codependency. And see, when people talk about codependency, people don't always, like Charlie's Angels, people don't always realize what codependency is. And that's what codependency is. It's where you put other people's needs above your own, where you believe inherently that you are not good enough, that you have to constantly try harder, do better, be better in order to win approval from other people. So you want people to approve of you, and you don't need to. You only need to approve of yourself. Yeah, well, that's it, Jeanette. I agree. There's been a lot of that gone on for me over the years too, where people were constantly being cruel to other people, and I couldn't understand it. I still have issues with it now. People being nasty about other people for the most insane reasons. Oh, how dare she buy a bigger house? What was wrong with the other house she lived in? Is she not grateful? What, she just wants to work her husband harder so she can have a bigger house? Well, that's her business. It's what she wants. Let her be. Don't be nasty about it. That's her business, not yours. That's jealousy. Yeah, I think that the gossip. I'm sure people gossip about me. I'm always, when I hear people say things, I'm like, you got nothing better to do in your life than gossip about little old me. Crazy. Um, yeah, exactly. And that's very true. And there's a certain amount, we laugh about it at work because we get told all the time not to gossip at work. And I always say there is a certain amount of gossip that is debriefing. So don't always jump on people if they get pissed off with other people because of something that's happened, because sometimes we just need to debrief. And we don't mean anything hurtful or nasty. It's just our way of debriefing in the moment. If we continually do it and we don't let it go, then it's a problem. Yeah, I'm up and I'm ready to go and have my eyelashes done again. I can tell you, I'm listening to all you thinking, and I've only just got my nails done. But I'm ready to have my Aussie's Goddesses Angels. Oh my God, that's a mouthful. Yeah, I sorry, I just went off into my own little space then. Absolutely. Yep, just have a little vent, a little and then move on. That's true. And I think it's okay to have a little vent. A little vent, because someone's pissed you off because something that they've done is okay. Being spiteful and mean about other people because you're jealous of what they have is not okay. But as I said, some people don't know any different. You got to realize that sometimes people don't know any different. And then you've got to work out, do you challenge them and say something, or do you just move on and just take, because if someone's a real narcissist, then they're not going to learn. And if you tell a narcissist they're a narcissist, it's like telling a psychopath that they're a psychopath. They don't know. They have no idea that they've got a problem or issue. That's the way they've learned to live. It becomes normal and natural. They may know that they're manipulating people, but they think that's normal. They don't know any different. Sorry, debriefing. I've never seen that before. That's too funny. Yeah, that's the trouble. It gets to a point where you sorry, I'm reading again and losing track. Yeah, a lot of men get their nails done, Scott. A lot of businessmen have their nails done, have manicures, because they're using their hands all the time. So I guess that's okay too. If a guy wants to have his nails done, if he wants to wear false eyelashes, that's okay with me. I don't have an issue or problem with that either. If we're all spending too much time alone. I better go. It's 1:11. All right, people, I'm going. Been great chatting with you. Have yourself a really nice day. For those who are on public holiday today, enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow. Much love.